You obviously go from that to more of like a real co-host role with Colin. And I always tell people I've been a huge Colin Cowherd fan forever because I'm a radio nerd, and I always would just admire his ability to go off without anyone to bounce stuff off of. Because like you could listen to him on the radio like when I was like younger, and I'd be like, this guy, it's just him in there just like,
just talking.
And it's like really entertaining, which is really hard, as you know, because you've been a part of radio for so long. I think you guys had such a dope dynamic on the show as you kind of being his number two. What is it like? Because I'm a huge Colin Cowherd fan. What's he like as a guy, and just like, what's it like working with him? Because you guys had a great run before you went to speak for yourself and kicked your own thing off.
Colin's the best. I'm a radio nerd too, so you'll appreciate this. He's a huge prepper.
Yeah.
So he does a 2-hour prep show before the 3-hour show.
Right.
So there's a lot of prep. He's very thorough. He wants to make sure he has the graphics he wants to support what he's talking about. He wants to make sure that he has the sound he wants to support what he's talking about. He wants to make sure he has the statistics. He's looked up, the historical stuff that goes along with what he's saying. He really talks through all of the topics. So his ability to, stretch a subject the way that you're talking about and continue to have the conversation with you, the listener, but by himself.
It's crazy.
I mean, his brain works differently to be able to do that anyway, but it really also helps that he preps a lot. He doesn't like to waste airtime. So sometimes it depends on the show, obviously, but we'll do a little banter back and forth, whatever, about, being in wine country or whatever, him going to Utah, but it's never too long. We don't let that conversation be the conversation we're having in the segment.
Right.
He always brings it back to, okay, what do we want to get to here? We're gonna get to Aaron Rodgers here. Like we can go a little bit off to make sure that people know that we're human beings, but we got to talk about what we planned on talking about. He's very, very serious about the show. He feels like it's disrespectful to the audience to not be prepared to do a show.
I love it.
So that's really what makes him great and able to do such a big show, because 3 hours of content is a long ass show.
For sure.
In our business, that is an insanely long show, and he does it as his show. Yeah. So he can do all of that by himself if he needs to.
Obviously, for you, because you have your solo podcast.
I haven't done this podcast
you haven't done it for a while.
Yeah, but I had one for several years.
But while you were doing the Cowherd show, you had your own show, right? Was the upside for you to leave the Skip and Shannon show, which is the biggest show on the network, to go to Colin, was it because you were able to have because you had your own segment every day, were you able to kind of you were able to get your shit off,
Yeah,
was that the upside, or what made you want to make that move?
It was partly, obviously a different role and a more expanded speaking role. When I first went to Colin, it was still just, the news updates. He'd bring me in here and there, but it took a little time for us to build up the muscle of him being able to just lean on me when he needed to. It's a trust and chemistry.
Right.
I had done the show a lot, so I already knew the beats of the show because I would fill in on her a lot when I was doing Undisputed. So we already knew how to do the show together, but what the show was going to feel like together just took a little time. And us doing it from home during the pandemic actually really helped us a lot because we just had to talk.
That's all you had to do.
That's all we had to do.
We have nothing else going on.
Yeah. But for me, my goal was always to be in the role that I'm in now. And it was important to me to always keep growing in the business. So I did 2 years of Undisputed, and I felt like I had, mastered that role. And there was, I'd kind of hit the ceiling of how much better I was going to get at that role. And I was ready to try something different and, get into a new challenge and a different type of show. So it was never that I didn't want to work with them or anything. I love Skip and Shannon and love doing that show. It was just time for me to go to a new role.
To something new, yeah.
Yeah, and similarly, that's why I made the jump to speak after Colin.